Hello, my name is True Demon, and I'm the Devil Stockbroker. Thank you so much for tuning in to watch this video. Before we begin, please understand I'm not a financial advisor, and none of the following content is financial advice. The following content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Trading stock carries inherent risk, and you should always respect and understand your own personal risks when considering any investment. Please don't take what I say as gospel, and please do not trade based on the information that I receive and share through my content. Thank you so much, and have a hell of a time in the stock market.
To play, but there's True Demon. Good morning, TD. How's it going? Thanks for joining, and I mean that because I know I
Morning,
personally
TD.
reached out to you.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, no problem.
I just joined too. They're talking about the
AMC.
dividend, AMC dividend right now.
Yeah, TD. I was asking if, and the reason I think I reached out to you earlier was because I've been talking to some brokers and trying to figure out if there's really a lot of naked short shares still existing, or are we just looking at like a strong short interest, but without naked shares? Because that will make a big difference as to what happens when we convert over. So I was asking your assessment of what you thought, basically. I watched your due diligence. I watched the video, but the whole premise of us getting out of debt and AMC becoming a really viable company long term is kind of based on the fact that it will squeeze, right? Because that's going to drive the price up enough to make Adam Aron's worthwhile to issue the shares.
In theory, yeah. We obviously don't know what the position is when it comes to naked shorts, and I don't know that they're still there. I assume that they are because the price action hasn't ever really reflected a squeeze of the magnitude that would indicate that they covered over 500 million shares, but we don't know.
Hey, TD, I was supposing that maybe they were slowly feeding some of those shorts in through from March run up when it went down into the 9 and down into the $10 range and came back up. But even that aside, is it possible that if there's two groups of, I don't know, hedge funds or somebody that are naked shorting it, would it just be to each other where they wouldn't have the obligation to give those 8 shares? Is that something that's even possible?
Well, the naked shorting doesn't actually happen because the hedge fund takes the short and that they're knowingly taking a naked short. It happens because brokers are lending out shares and rehypothecating them in a way that they're lending them more than once. And it's because the way that the chain works is the broker sells short a share to somebody, that person sells that share and into the market, and then that person who received that share puts that share up for lending. And then when that person puts the share up for lending, the broker has the knowledge that that share has already been loaned out. But what they can do is they can mark it for short selling a second time. And that rehypothecation is what creates a naked short. Because the rehypothecation, by definition, creates a daisy chain of obligations between each of the parties that are involved in the trades. So you have a buyer who lends to a seller, who sells to a buyer, who lends to a seller, who sells to a buyer, who lends to a seller, and so on down the line. And that line creates a chain of succession. Now, with rehypothecation, you don't have to get the same share back. Any share will do. It's not like you have to, they're not even marked by serial number. And that's what really adds to the complication of this whole mess, is that you may have shares that have been rehypothecated 4, 5, 6, 7 times. And we'll never
It's
know.
not the same share that the broker says, okay, it's from Johnny's share. And it's
Right.
not loaning out to 7 different people. He's loaning to someone who's a seller. You're saying that
Right.
share, how does that get sold to another buyer? How does that? That's what
So
you're
if
saying, right?
so
And
the
a completely
buyer,
new
if the
buyer.
buyer is opting in to any kind of share lending program, or if they're trading on a margin account where the broker can use that share as collateral against their other positions, then that share can be lent out for short selling. And the broker keeps the fees for that in that case. That's the difference. So in a standard relationship with a individual who has a basket of shares that the broker wants to sell short or lend out for short selling, that person can opt in with their cash position shares, and they can say, I'm willing to lend my shares for a fee. And that's the standard relationship, whether you're trading a cash or a margin account. And the broker
Right. That's
says,
how it
okay.
starts.
Yeah. And
That's
that's
how
how
you
it
get.
starts. And then the broker
Hey,
says, okay, great, I'll go ahead and lend your shares out, and you'll keep a portion of the fees that we collect as a part of that loan process. Where it
It's
gets
also
really
called a
screwed
shelf
up,
too. So,
is when the broker identifies shares that are highly desired for shorting in the market, and somebody is in a margin account that is using its maintenance margin. Then, in order to discount their fees for margin lending, what the broker says is, hey, we can just lend out your shares for you, and you won't have to take as bad of a hit on your maintenance margin. We'll kind of offset the costs for you. And that's part of the margin lending process, where they'll take margin shares which are purchased on margin, or if your account is under or you're using your margin buying power, then the broker will lend out those shares without even asking. And the broker keeps all those fees. And that's where they really make their money, because they're lending out millions and millions of these
right,
shares on margin accounts across literally thousands of different tickers.
right. But that's just a one-to-one. But the hypothecation, you're saying they take the shares loaned, they sell it to a short seller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they did that one time, and
Yep.
then they loan it out a second time, the same to another short seller. Is
They
that the hypothecation,
that's
or
that's direct that's direct naked shorting, but yes, it's also rehypothecation. Hypothecation is just the process of taking an asset and lending it out to someone. It's basically like a pawn relationship, or repurchase agreement. With those types of agreement, you lend something out that holds value that person can then later on return to you at at whatever its notional value is at that time in the market. And that is
right?
hypothecation. Rehypothecation is when you do that a second time by creating another link in the chain. And
How
you
does that
can.
work? That's where I'm confused. So the seller, because you loaned it out to a short seller,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
And the
he's
short.
not in the process. He's not in the process of wanting to buy it. Well, he wants to buy a share. So he's saying he. Okay, go ahead.
He
Given that.
sells he sells that share into the market. That's the process of short selling, right?
Okay.
OTD.
Yep.
Right.
Um, you kind of just like came in and got asked a bunch of questions right away.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed.
I'm just curious how your weekend's going, and then like if you have an introduction or anything.
I appreciate it. I'm my weekend's going okay. Just been really busy trying to,
I'm
catch up
sure.
on all the market trends and stuff like that. I appreciate you asking though. Um, oh, so
I don't
Phil,
monopolize.
back to
We
your.
can come back to it. I want to make sure everybody else is covered. I just wanted to cover this before we left. So if everybody else has questions, I'm sorry I didn't.
Oh, you're good.
I
You're
didn't
good.
realize there were other questions, so we can
It's okay.
certainly
It's no
proceed to them.
worries.
But
The
I was trying to get at if we really what would happen and why it would be so ultimately so great to move through this, and then I want to support AMC too, but I have a lot of money invested, and that's why I'm
I got you.
anxious about it, trying
Which
to figure
stocks?
out
Which stocks, Phil?
AMC.
Just that one?
That's predominant. I have other stocks, but that's the
Okay.
predominant. That's like I have more than 50% of my portfolio in right now.
You know what? I have this handy dandy new tablet. Maybe I can draw this whole process out and make this a little bit easier to visualize.
That would be appreciated. I think that would help. because I know you're optimistic, and I do believe Adam Aaron is definitely a good CEO. I don't doubt that for a second with the company. I totally agree. But the question is, will he even have the ability to execute? Because it does depend on him paying off the debt. This is really like the crux, even from a fundamental standpoint, which goes
And
back to it squeezing somehow.
not to interrupt you, Phil.
No, go ahead.
All
Absolutely.
right, so this is on AMC. So TD, I don't know if you have an opinion. Trey posted a video and he had 3 scenarios and every single one of them had a pullback. Dating from today, Friday. Every single one of them pulled back 3 different scenarios and then we have a slow come up. And I sent a tweet to him and I said, what if this dividend, being Monday being the last day, just makes the stock go up? He said that's also a possibility. It's not out of the question. Do you have an opinion on that, I guess?
Well, I didn't look at his different scenarios, so
They all go down on Monday.
Fibonacci based.
they
Yes,
all go
sir.
down on
Yeah, they're
Monday.
all Fibonacci and they all go down.
I see. Okay. Well, I'm not relying on Fibonacci. Let me see if I can make this thing work. Wow. I'm trying to use MS Paint and it's like it's broke as a joke, man.
I guess my question is like, if you think AMC is still looking all right, I guess.
I got you. Let me go ahead and pull it up here on my
Okay.
charts and I'll share it with you guys.
I don't even know if I trust charting at this point on AMC specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I would think we would start to see all sorts of wild fluctuations right now if there were a lot of naked shares running around.
Yes, because we're like literally within the day of
Round zero.
that
Yeah,
that dividend
exactly.
stock.
Time is expiring. We're actually at 12 o'clock, right?
Well, this is
Fast
how
quick.
I had drawn out AMC's move. The reason being is that we had a stair stepping pattern in the chart setup going back to the beginning of August. This stair stepping pattern was following ascending wedges or ascending triangles, which are bullish, by the way. Ascending triangles are a bullish pattern. Flat tops and higher lows, and once you get to the tip, it breaks out, and that's consistently happened 3 times in a row. This one was more of just like flat structure. This little range here wasn't quite a wedge. I was expecting it to be, but it kind of set itself up in a similar way in that it was forming structure and it just kept popping over. So that setup has now formed an even larger one, which you could argue is shaping up very similarly to a parabolic arc pattern. Parabolic arc patterns, let me actually get this on the drawing pad.
After you answer that, on your charting, do you see where, I don't know how to ask the question. Like, uh, sorry, I'm gonna wait
You can
to
describe it,
ask.
in other words. You can
Yeah,
describe it. If you can, even in a long way is okay.
Yeah, go ahead,
like where
dude.
you believe the stock will go.
So price target. I don't actually know. And that's the reason why I say that isn't so that I'm just avoiding trouble. It's just I really don't have any idea where the
Well,
stock
and
can go.
I couldn't ask the question because I was thinking like it can literally do this or this based on Monday. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of like you have to go into it as thinking if you want to be in the fundamental play long term. It sounds like that's how you have to approach it.
Yeah.
It's just as like a fundamental play and not that something's going to go parabolic, come I tell you, and the reason why I'm asking is I went through big, right, with the Kryptide, and I went through sport. I went through those two, and I took a bath, essentially. It never didn't happen the way it was. There's also theories about, that shorts are gonna, with the sport, that shorts couldn't, they'd be caught as soon as it rolled over to the new green or whatever that is. I forgot what it's called now. Great, great. That suddenly see could go parabolic again, and then the same thing with big. The Kryptide would trip up the shorts, and neither one happened. And I know that there were some tactics used to help prevent it, but I'm kind of leery of thinking that we're sneaking up on the shorts and catching them.
Well, it's the reason why I disagree is because of chart history. And I don't know if it's necessarily just because we're beating shorts or if it's because we're playing against very powerful players in the market who are also bullish on AMC, or they're making use out of the retail crowd in order to drive their own plays. Because one of the most powerful things that AMC has right now, and the most powerful things that the institutions who might be bullish on AMC, is that they know that they can manipulate the price to the upside much more easily. All they have to do is just accumulate a big enough position and then exhaust and then just wait for that opportunity in the market where the chart setup is ideal and drive the price up to a new high, and then retail follows and FOMO's in, and then we continue the momentum driving the price to new highs. And then they just
It's a
cash out at the
FOMO play.
top. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So they can manipulate the price to
typical
the
pump and
upside
dump.
more easily, whereas shorts have to slowly work their way down and beat it down over a long period of time. And I suspect that those institutions are actually doing so with great success because all they have to do is just once they cash out of their position, they just get a whole bunch of puts and then ride it out and then let the charts come down and let the price relax just like they did here. So I'm going to
Yeah,
point a
they make
few
money both ways, right? They make money on the way up and money on the way down, essentially.
pretty much, yeah. And I BlackRock got killed. BlackRock actually had a huge position of those puts that they sold at the top. They sold a huge mess of puts up here at the top, and obviously those went way in the money. They were expiring in between June and January of next year. So there was some huge I guess it would be seller's remorse, but you get my point. So
Yeah. Do you think that we're in that stage with the algorithms that they're going to flip and that they're basically in accumulation stage? Then the institutions.
it's setting up that way. So this area that I have circled is part of my reason for that thinking.
I can't. I don't see the circle. Sorry, it looks like part of the screen.
Let's see. Are you able to see my trading view
I'm
chart?
seeing. I'm seeing this. I'm in your. Yeah. I'm looking at you. Where it says SPY and UPRO, and you've got it. But I only see like it looks.
Half your chart on the left seems to be cut off. You have the right half
Yeah.
with data.
What the heck? All right.
It's like it's zoomed in maybe to the right.
That's interesting.
Now we can see
There
it.
you go.
Now you can see it. Okay. Well, that
Now.
sucks. That means I can't put it on my tablet. Its Discord is not handling the change of resolution between the tablet and my monitor. That's what's going on. Oh well. I'll just have to I'll just go back to using the mouse. It's all good. All right. Well, anyhow.
You were
So
saying.
this area is what has my attention. Just these moves, this cup and handle parabolic arc move. This is a parabolic arc. This is what happened to AMC in May and June that led to the squeeze. Okay. and it was preceded. First, it set up these two tops, here and here, at the top of a symmetrical triangle. And just before we made this move, we hit a top on that triangle as well, here. And the other thing that you notice is that we have flat bottoms here.
Is that triple bottom that we're looking at there?
Yes, it is a triple bottom setup,
Okay.
very close to it. Now, if you go over to here, it's much bigger, but I suspect that is partially because we're dealing with a much larger float. But if you notice, we have this entire structure going all the way back to November of last year. And you could even draw this as a cup and a handle as well. And here, if you draw a cup on the entire structure,
like the Rorschach test.
yeah.
You know, that's what I've already. You have to, so you can see different things in the chart, which is interesting. But go ahead.
So what I would expect is to touch 35 again and to maybe even exceed it a little bit, and then get that really tough pullback. And at that point, the price takes off. Because what happened here was a big amount of capital raising for AMC. AMC raised a ton of capital that week. And a lot of people are upset with Mudrick, but honestly, Mudrick made the hilarious blunder of letting go of their shares while they were pulling back. This sale right here, this kill candle that happened right at that time, was Mudrick's sale after announcing that they had purchased the AMC shares. And of course, we had the at the market offering that happened back here. And that at the market offering was bought up so quickly, the price just started to rise naturally because that offering had ended. It only took 2 days. But those are just historical events. Now, some folks are upset with Adam Aron because of his quote obsession with trying to dilute AMC, but what he's trying to do is to resolve the debt.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, you'd be naive not to think that.
Yeah.
That's the whole. I agree with you. I thought the same thing before I even looked at your video. That the whole thing, what drives around, you got to get rid of the debts and albatross. You can't really make any major moves
Exactly.
on a massive scale or be acquired. You're not attractive if you have that kind of debt. So either way, regardless of what would lie in AMC's future, the debt stands in the way at this point.
Exactly.
But the question is how, it has to squeeze, right? In order for him to not dilute it to death, right? It has to go up, like you said. It has to.
Oh, not necessarily.
Go north of 100.
No, not necessarily. It doesn't have to go that ridiculously high for AMC to sell at the top. But what he does have to have is he has to have shares available to sell. He has to have a basket of shares to sell when things do go ballistic. And right now he doesn't have them. That was the whole purpose of the ape equity. And he understands that we're very defensive, as like, not me personally, but like
I know what you're saying.
The community culture is dilution bad, dilution, no dilution. Yeah. And they just scream.
Dilution.
Yeah, they just scream all day long about how dilution is bad. And fundamentally, that's the wrong way to think about it. If you're investing, if you are an investor, you are investing in the company, and you are giving your intention should be to give your money to the company with the understanding that their relationship with you is to return it to you later on, and that you will receive a dividend at that time to prove that they are good to their word. Let's look at the financials of AMC and because I'm going to publish this to YouTube to really drive this point home. AMC's balance sheet is still ugly as sin. It's still bad. They've got good assets. They've got a decent debt to asset ratio, but their debt, their total liabilities is still really bad. They're slowly pulling it back, and that's improving, but their total long-term debt at 9.85 billion this number right here is the entire reason for short's thesis against AMC.
Yes, definitely.
And if Adam Aaron can wipe this debt clean, if he could just not even clean, just cut it by 20%, just give it a 20% haircut, that
Do
would
you
be
think 20% enough? See, I
20%
was
is
thinking
plenty.
50.
20% is plenty. That would put them below 7 billion in debt, and that would put them at a positive debt to asset ratio. They would have positive asset. Uh, they would have a positive asset ratio.
It's a milestone.
Yeah.
But think about how much that is. So that's 1.7 billion, right? So you
Yeah.
figure how many shares would they have to like sell, and at what price? That's why I'm saying like I'm thinking $100 a share would have to be for him to be able to execute effectively. Otherwise, he's going to dilute the hell out of it. If he sells like 50, he's got to sell how many shares to get that? Because that's really what has to happen.
Well, he's also got access to plenty of other methods of doing that. He can sell warrants. He can sell secured senior notes. He can sell um, convertible debt and receive another loan in exchange for a guarantee if the price rises to a certain price, and then the company would just hand over those shares to their to whoever gave them that loan. That's the same thing that they did with Silver Lake. And if the expectation is that AMC is going to go to $50, then that's an excellent exchange. So let me go ahead and do some quick math here. So 1.7 billion. If we divide that by a share price of 50, that would be 34 million shares if he sold that many at a share price of $50.
Would he do that? I mean, I guess that's what 6% dilution. I guess that's reasonable if it goes to 50.
Yeah, but he's not going to dilute AMC. He's going to dilute APE. And the thing is that if the equity of AMC is going up, then it's likely that APE will follow. Even though the logical theory dictates that AMC's equity will be divided in half and it will act as a 2-for-1 split, I kind of have my doubts about that. He might be right, but I kind of have my doubts about that because it's not actually splitting the equity, it's creating a new one. So even if the theory goes that with the voting rights, for them to divide those voting rights up between AMC and APE, that doesn't necessarily mean that the price will immediately reflect that. What I do expect to happen actually is that AMC probably won't move very much. At the very least, it may pull back. But I think between now and August the 19th, it will continue to go up, and I think it's going to break this ascending triangle right here.
You think the opposite. You think the opposite of what Trey thinks.
Yeah, I do think the opposite of what Trey thinks. I think that the pullback is likely to come afterwards, where we'll retest this level. After August the 22nd, I think we go back and retrace this the week after, and then test this level.
The difference in theories. Why do you think? I guess I'd be curious to see why you and Trey differ. What you're seeing and what you're.
Well, he's going off of a different technical trading strategy. He sees different patterns than me, and he's using Fibonacci's, which I don't really use Fibonacci's too much. Sometimes I'll rely on them when I'm looking for certain cipher patterns that are a bit hard to spot. I'll rely on that sometimes. Like harmonics patterns are really excellent. I've loved, like, look at this, bat cipher, boom, bat cipher, boom, Gartley pattern, boom. Those harmonic ciphers are nice, and those are based off of Fibonacci's. But I don't use Fibonacci's because I feel like they take a lot of time to chart out. They're as right as often as they are wrong. I find that
That's interesting.
trading with the trend using moving averages and finding those bullish or bearish chart patterns to find good entry and exit points are more reliable for me. And that's just my
Oh, that's
strategy.
good. That's interesting for us to know too, because it's a contrast in. It's for me particularly because I look at Trey and I look at watch both. And I
Yeah.
always wonder how there's different assessments, but that would make sense if you're using different indicators.
Yeah. And
So,
I still
do you
think
think the
Trey's
moving
an
average is? I'm
what's
sorry.
that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say
I was
and
gonna.
I think that Trey is he's an excellent technical analyst. He's made some really killer trades before and after AMC. Um, he just has a different strategy than me.
Yeah. Do you think moving averages have you found to be the most reliable
I find that
indicators
they
so far?
are the most consistent for swing trades because when you're trading with the trend, that adage that the trend is your friend is quite reliable. It's the reason why it's so popular is because it works so well. And I hold my trades for a significant period of time, and I'll be looking for
Yeah.
those big swings. And that's why I trade my options 30, 60, 90 days out rather than buying weeklies. If you're doing day trading strategies, occasionally I'll do that. Like I'll look for those big earnings bangers and I'll try and see if I can catch the right direction buy the option that's expiring right after earnings and see if I can catch a big move in one direction or the other. And of course those options are so cheap, you know. They're super cheap, so it sets the risk to reward ratio up in your favor. But other than those, like those big explosive news releases or big earnings announcements, things like that, I stick to that, relying on the moving averages just because they're very consistent.
Using the dailies, Pete? I'm sorry. Just to clarify, you tend to use the dailies when you do
I
that.
I use multiple time frames. So when I'm looking at the broader trend, I'll look at the weekly and the daily. And on the weekly, you can see consistent moves in AMC. Like the big reversal and the big squeeze happened after on the weekly chart AMC crossed over the 200 period weekly moving average, found support the second week after that and then squeezed the next 4 weeks after that. And it's something that not many people notice. This red line is the 200 moving average. You see the May 13th. This was May 13th right here, where it just slammed right through it, and then found support.
What's the other lines? What are the? Oh, just the price. Just the price. It's in the candle.
We've got the white is the this is the 10, the 20, the 50. The orange is the 100, and red is the 200. Smooth moving averages. And notice what I notice here is that every time that we touch the 200 moving average on the weekly chart, it did not stay below it for more than a week. It bounced above it each time. Now we've consolidated below it in the last couple of months, while the market was very red. But since we got some support and broke through it again, now we're trading above the 200 and the 100, and we're testing the 50. So what can happen here is AMC enters into a much longer term trend. And the daily is actually showing very much the same thing. We cracked through the 200 daily average here on the 5th of August. We tested a new high and then retraced and bounced off of the 200 and kept going. So I'm very bullish going forward. Maybe we see some pullback next week, but that's okay. My target is that we do not go back below the 200 moving average again. If we do not go back below this 200 moving average again, I will be bullish on AMC for the next quarter.
Will you let us know what you see?
I
Just put
let
a
you
message
guys
with
know
you.
what I see every day. No sweat.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be looking for it. Seriously.
Of
That's
course.
appreciated.
We're in the trading floor all the time, man.
Yeah. My problem is I'm not like I'm working, so it's hard for me. I try to follow when I can.
I
But
understand. I
like when
understand.
I have meetings 6 hours a day or something, and I'm putting out fires, it's like hard for me to be. Even though I have my work set up, and then adjacent on the side, I have my home set up. So I'm constantly like trying to watch what's going on my personal PC, which is where your messages, where the
Oh, I see.
Discord
So
messages pop by. But
how do you usually get the news from me when I see something?
well, I have to my right, like I'll be facing my work, right, which is my main desk, and I have my laptop, and then I have two external monitors, which is for work,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's interchangeable. And then on my to my right, I have a separate table with my home laptop and one external monitor. So I'm constantly trying to watch as I'm working. I'm trying to pay as much attention as I can, but it's obviously sometimes I just can't. If I'm in a meeting, I have to be paying attention because I may be asked questions, which happens, or
Yep.
I need to obtain the information. So it's hard for me to do it, and I do have to stay after hours, and some days, some nights I'm occupied, so I really can't
I got you.
get at it.
I got you.
So, but I try as much as I can, especially with this week coming up, which I think is critical for what happens to AMC, because you're
Most
kind of locked
definitely.
in by the end of Friday, right? One way or the other. You're taking the ride or you're out.
Yeah.
Which I want to take the ride, but I need to really, I need to see I want to see what your logic was, because like Heisenberg said, do you like to be called Heisenberg, or do you like to call H, or you have a nickname? That's easy to call. I kind of that's almost disrespectful calling someone by their last name, but but as he mentioned, Trey said things were, he thought things were going to go down, which is kind of unusual also in that he didn't really like play into any of the momentum, right? Like it's like he ignored the momentum and just went strictly on technical analysis. And obviously, this is like a hyperbolic week.
What I think that Trey might be making the mistake of is that he's too zoomed in and he needs to zoom out and look at the whole chart and consider these moving averages. It might change his whole thesis. I don't think he's actually looking at this. I think
It
he's
might be an
looking.
interesting discussion one time for him and you
I
guys
would
like
love
to
to
talk
talk to
about
Trey.
it.
I would love to talk to Trey again. We used to chat all the time. He's been super busy and I've been busy. We haven't been able to catch up with each other. But
Let's pretend
maybe I'll
that.
shoot him a quick message real quick and just
Yeah,
see if he wants to come in and hang out. Because I used to talk to him all the time.
he will. He will. I'm sure of it. Knowing him, he'll probably want to say hi to you anyway. Knowing him, he'll
I'll
probably want to
message
come.
him right now.
Heisenberg, real quick, did you like to be called Heisenberg, or do you like to be called something else? I want to be respectful to you. That's why I was asking. I don't know if you want to pipe up.
All right. Well, I messaged Trey. We'll see what he says. See if he's interested in hanging out with the professionals. And make sure that he's actually.
Even at large, like the Discord, if you set it up one time, be like fascinating to have a discussion. I think it would really be educational for everybody to look at that. I know Flab thinks the same as you do, because he's after one of us at one of our meetings, he was starting to teach me about moving averages and exponential. So I know he's a big believer like you are.
Uh, yeah, Flab actually, he's much more reliant on moving averages than even I am. He relies entirely on moving averages and a MACD strategy, which is working very well for him, as I understand it.
Yeah, yeah, because I asked him. I said, "Well, what's your percentage?" He said about 64% of the time he's right. That's what one of the first things I do is how successful is your method, right? That's determines whether you want to
Yep.
even venture down that path.
And if you're
So
doing a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio and you're still that successful with that 60% average, then making,
yeah,
let's see,
you're doubling your money. You're doubling your money is
every
what you
four,
do when you put.
yeah, you're doubling whatever your risk is each time. Yeah, taking like that's how I've been looking to trade with another broker is to do those setups for like the 15-minute, 30-minute, and 1 hour time frames, and just relying on MACD and moving averages. I don't have time to trade that consistently, that I can get up first thing in the morning, an hour before the market, because I'm on the West Coast,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like I can barely get up at I can barely get up at 9 on the West
Barely get up
Coast.
for your day.
I'm
Me too.
tired. I'm tired. I work so late with my job, and
Yeah, no,
it doesn't jive well. I don't know.
yeah.
Me and my wife are discussing moving back to the to the Eastern time zone.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow. Whereabouts?
not sure yet. Don't know, but
I'm in the
the,
East
the
Coast. I'm based in Atlanta. That's why I'm curious.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah. That means stay away. Don't come to Atlanta if you want to have to hang out with me. No.
Yeah. We have a pretty unique situation that we have to consider, which is why I'm pausing before I answer.
Mm. Yeah, no, that I totally respect. Obviously there's a lot involved when you make a move. A lot involved. So
Yeah, we moved clear across the country from the Eastern time zone all the way over to the West Coast, and
wow.
we made that journey in 5 days in a moving truck. It was a little bit absurd.
Yeah,
almost got almost
that's a
got
tough
swept
move.
up by a tornado traveling across I-80 in Kansas,
Nice,
or
nice.
Nebraska is Nebraska.
It's always an adventure, right? It's never smooth. It's one thing you can
Yeah,
count on.
it was quite an adventure. All right.
I didn't mean to monopolize it. The thanks. I guess I just wanted to see what. So you. So bottom line is, you feel like we're going to be a bullish trend even when we convert over, even if not initially. That ultimately,
Oh
the
yeah.
price,
Even if there's some
given today's
pullback,
price,
even
you think it's going to exceed it up. Even within a month
yes.
afterwards or so.
Yes, I do.
I don't
I
know.
actually feel very confident in this trade going forward now, because we're trading with the trend again, and all of the moving averages are moving in the right direction. Now we have this 50 on the 1 hour acting as support for all of our momentum. We're back above the 200 on the daily. We broke through the
What is
200
the
on the
first one? Can
weekly.
you explain that? The first thing you said about the 50. That go back
Oh,
up if
the
you
green
rewind
is
it
the
quick.
50 period moving average.
What? Yeah. So you're saying because it's a shorter trend that once we exceed that a longer term trend, that means that's even more bullish because it means long term we're going to keep going up, right? The
Right,
200 going up. Just
right.
to make sure.
Being
I'm a little
above
bit
the
of a novice in this
200,
game.
you're in a bullish trend anyway. But having the 50 act as I use the 50 as an entry point for long positions. What I do is I wait for the candles to wick through the 50, and then I'll use that as my buy position as soon as I see a
Yeah.
confirmation reversal candle. So if I'm trading on a 1 hour time frame, well, actually, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
trading on a
It
1 hour
crosses
time
it and
frame.
then bounces back up against it, and then goes back down, right?
Right,
When it's bound one.
exactly. Like if
Okay.
I'm going to trade the 15-minute time frame, normally I trade the 15-minute. So I look at the 1 hour to see my overall trend. This is my long-term trend. And I see I'm in a very bullish trend. I've got the 200, the 100, and the 50 all moving in the upward direction. And I've got my 10 and my 20 to act as my kind of like a MACD. I actually was using 9 and 21.
Yeah, that's what Flav's numbers.
Yeah, I
Okay.
use a slightly different one. And when I see this cross below, and then I see it change direction, or I get a confirmation candle where it wicks down and we get a confirmation return candle where this trend starts to turn back in the other direction, I'll just take a buy. So like on this one, I probably would have I probably would have set a limit order for the bottom of the body of this red candle, and I would have gotten
Mhm.
filled on either this one or this one, most likely. And I would be up on my position. I could just exit at the top of this triangle or I could just hold on to it and let the trend play itself out, because I swing trade all the time. But if you're doing like 15-minute trades, you look at the overall trend on the 1 hour, and then you go down to the 15-minute and you trade the 15-minute candles. So I just use the 1 hour. I just use the 1 hour to give myself a broader picture of what it looks like. And like there's that bull hammer candle. I would guarantee you I would have taken this trade. You have you have a three crows pattern. This is three
Yeah.
big red candles in a row. And as soon as I see this deep wicking bull hammer, that's my entry right there. I immediately take that trade, no questions. And then as soon as I see that the trend is returning back to the upside, as soon as I get my first rejection candle,
Mhm.
here's my rejection candle. I wouldn't take this one because it's just flat, and I wouldn't
Right.
take this one because I've just had a 3 white soldiers pattern, and the red candles are very shallow here. And
Mhm.
this one, this rejection candle, this evening star here, I would probably take this one. I would probably get out on this evening star.
Mm. Interesting. I have to learn more about that, but that's a horse of a different color. But thanks for pointing
Yeah,
that out.
yeah, no problem. The other possible trade is that the other possible exit that I might have taken is as soon as I saw this thing get rejected off of the top of the triangle, I probably would have gotten out here for sure. I most likely would have gotten out on this one, but
Even despite the
definitely
averages,
here.
like without paying attention to the what's happening with the averages, or would that be in conjunction with?
It is in conjunction with the averages. Like I'm trading patterns, but most of the time what I'm doing is I'm trading based off of my risk to reward ratio, which I'm always trading with a minimum 3 to 1. I
Yeah.
always swing with a 3 to 1 risk to reward ratio. Sometimes I'll liquidate like 80% of my position and hold the rest of it for an additional scalp.
Hmm.
But like right here, this is exactly where I would have set my this is exactly
You mean
where I
you'll
would have
play
set.
with a much smaller after you'll play with house money,
Yeah,
essentially,
I'll
is what
play I'll
you're
play
saying.
the last 20 or 10% with house money. And normally what I'll do is I'll set my stop loss. I can set my stop loss way down here if I'm feeling like I want to be really safe, but I usually won't go this far down. As soon as I see this big rejection candle, I'll just set this down to whatever the bottom of the pattern is. I know that I've got a lot of lines here. I'm going to change the color of this triangle to be purple so that you can see what I'm talking about. But what I'll do is as soon as I see this big rejection candle where it doesn't like that support and it stays away from it, I just put my stop loss right below the triangle, and then I'll set my risk to reward ratio for a flat 3 to 1. And that's pretty good. And after about, let's see, if I had gotten that perfect entry right there on that candle, I would have exited by the next day. Um, First thing in the morning on August the 11th. I would have gotten my entry August the 10th, and I would have swung that into the next day, and I would have had my exit first thing in the morning, and that's an immediate 3 to 1 profit.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I
and
have a
for me,
lot
this
to.
is a much less stressful way to trade because when you
Yeah,
can
I'd
trade
be a
these
swing trader too because I don't have time to pay attention to every day, like I said. So I'd have to be.
exactly, like
It has
it's
to be.
so stressful to just be constantly battling yourself and your own emotions, trying to like time perfect entries and exits, like
Yeah.
waiting on the 5 minute time frame for this thing to just line up perfectly, and I can't do it. Like it's way too
Yeah.
stressful. And I don't get up first thing in the morning. So for me, like I'd much rather just do this.
Yeah, I
And
think so. Also, what if you have like five of these or seven? How do you pay attention to them? You got to catch them all, like you said. You got to
yeah,
catch them all right at the right spot. If you 5 minutes later, and you could have lost it if you're trading in that time frame.
yeah, exactly. Oh, here's another additional confluence. If you don't like just using moving averages, there's other things that you can do right here. The MACD right here turned very bullish. So you had this big bull hammer candle right here. If you wanted to wait for confirmation, you could see that there's big weakness here in the MACD's histogram, and you had a cross on the MACD 2 candles later. So if you had traded on that candle, you still would have gotten a 3-to-1 exit just by setting a stop loss to the bottom of the wick of this bull hammer. And you could have used this third green candle as your confirmation candle. You still would have had a take profit of 3-to-1 just trading this MACD cross. So the MACD cross would give you a slightly later entry, and that's on a 12 to 26. Or you can switch, you can make it a little bit more reactive and make it a 9 to 21. That's my moving average. And you would have gotten that cross on the second candle right here. So you would have gotten a slightly better entry. But either way, in all of these cases, same exact profit, same win.
Interesting.
Mhm.
I've got a lot to. It's probably more basic than I think, but I think I have to just get used to it. I see some patterns, but I don't know. It's just the idea, I guess, of putting it together. I guess once you do it for a while, it gets easier. But even though I understand patterns and I know what the candles do and what they mean and the charts, and I know what moving averages, I kind of have an idea of them. It's just the idea of seeing it and being able to put these patterns together. I guess you just have to do it and get experience, and it probably gets easier over time.
It does. It does get easier with time.
Was it
Eventually,
confusing
you'll
to
get
you
to a
when you
point
first
where,
looked
like,
at
when
it?
you're swinging these things, you see these opportunities. You'll see this perfect setup. Like, you'll see these big rejection candles on a trend, and
Yeah,
you'll realize, okay, this thing is going in the other direction. Like, that's clearly a big bounce. They couldn't
yeah,
drive it down here. I'm just going to go ahead and take that trade. And you enter your trade, and you just close your chart for the day, and you come back tomorrow, and that's it. You're just done trading for the day.
yeah. I hear you. That's
And
why
if
I'm
you could do
surprised.
that, if you could do 2 or 3 trades like this like per day, then you're golden, man. If you could do
Yeah,
3 trades like that,
for
if you
sure.
could
You
do
have
three
enough
trades like
fun.
that a
Yeah,
week.
definitely, definitely. Well, I appreciate it. I guess we can discuss more. I didn't want to monopolize the conversation. I appreciate everybody else, letting us talk this out. But I
Can
want
I
to get
ask?
the bottom line, getting conflicting stuff from different people as to, what the differences were and what to realistically expect at this point. I think you helped a great deal in terms of that. So
Yeah, yeah, I
I,
understand.
I need to be quiet and let everybody else talk, and because everybody else got questions. So I thank everybody else for being quiet. Honestly, this is just at a inflection point with AMC. So
I hear you. Yeah,
uh,
it is a big inflection point. What's going on in front of us right now is pretty it's pretty wild.
yeah, there's a lot of confusion with it. Even just getting the shares, not getting shares. What happens? Oh, the other thing I was going to deal with them. What happens? Like, are they obligated to get you shares no matter what? So what happens if we find out there really are shorts? And guess what? You're one of the hypothecated shares, and you're not getting it. What do we do? I guess that's another thing, which maybe anybody who has AMC here might be interested in knowing. What's our rights from your standpoint, and what do we do?
I'm not sure I understood your question.
I said, suppose that you are the owner of hypothecated shares, illegal shares,
Hmm.
right? And then you find out, surprise, like you'll see it. It'll show up. Everybody will think they got shares, but from what I understand, you actually have to go into the transaction history, to validate that that you really did get the shares, right? But let's say you really don't get the shares. August 22nd comes, you don't get your shares. What are your rights, and what do you do? Like, everybody who I think has a share, whether it's illegal or legal at this point, is treated equally, right? We're all supposed to get our shares from the standpoint of legal ownership, right? That all shares
Yeah.
are in essence legal. They may have been created illegal, but they're all legal now, right? But suppose you don't get your shares, what do you do? And what rights do you have? Or you
You
just
you
out of
call your
luck?
broker and you raise hell, and you don't let them get off the phone until they have an explanation. You make sure it's a recorded call, and you get in writing that you're going to be receiving your shares by X date, and if you don't, then that's where lawyers have to get involved. And at that point, like, it's really out of your hands
So you're kind of screwed if you're
a
one of the
little
ones
bit,
who don't get shares,
a little
essentially,
bit.
right? Because you don't want to get a lawyer unless you have a really big stake.
Yeah.
Don't we have legal rights though? Don't they have to do something at least? They
Unless you
can't
can
just
organize a class action, there's really nothing that can be done. That's what keeps these guys wealthy, and what allows them to keep doing this is that they literally have there's no recourse for retail to fight them. There is no recourse. We don't have a reliable way to fight them and fight for our rights, and that is historic since the beginnings of written history. Is that the wealthy and the ones with power control everybody because they disable their ability to organize. They make it prohibitive for them to organize, either by keeping people separated, by destroying education, or eliminating or limiting lines of communication. And as soon as the general populace is able to communicate freely, that's when suddenly rights and freedoms are realized that they're being taken from people. They start organizing, and then they go to war over it. Every single time in
Agreed.
history when a new method of communication was established, think about when um, Martin Luther, the monk from Germany, nailed his 95 thesis to the door of the Roman Catholic Church of why the Roman Catholic Church was basically corrupt, and everybody was able to read. That was enabled by the invention of the printing press. So because of the
Yeah.
printing press, he was able to distribute those papers. And that led
That's
to the
true.
schism. That directly led to the schism between the Protestant and Roman Catholic Church. And
Yeah. No, I hear
that
you.
theme in history, when the printing press came to Sweden, there was a revolution in Sweden, and they became a republic. Um, when the printing press was used uh, in pre-revolution France, there was, what was the paper by Marat. Um, can't remember his first name, but he's the famous subject of the painting of a man with a quill who is dead in a bathtub. That was actually like his murder scene, where he was killed. But his papers led to the most violent reactions and the most violent sects of revolutionaries in the French Revolution. Thomas Paine's Common Sense, which was the most
Yeah.
popular pamphlet ever, still to this day, more popular than the Bible itself, sold more copies in America than any other printed piece of work. And that is what led to that's what led to the uprisings that led to the Boston Tea Party, um, and the reactions of the founding fathers. What do they call themselves? The Sons of Freedom or Sons of Liberty. So
Yeah.
all of these events precipitate around people getting organized and realizing that they're getting screwed.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
forgot.
now we have Reddit. So now it's Reddit and deep fucking value.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's. I hear you. I mean, that's going on. Are you concerned at all? I mean, for your own shares, are you scared about this? That you're going to be caught in this?
I have accepted a long time ago, Phil, that I am probably not going to win. If I expect that I will be screwed in all of this, then I don't set myself up for disappointment. I can only be surprised if I actually see success. I
So
focus on my
you have a high. You accept that you may not get your shares. Then is what you're saying.
I accept the high likelihood that I will be screwed by the brokers and by Wall Street, as I have before many times in my life. And you know what? I succeed in other areas of my life by focusing on what is within my control, by trading the charts in front of me and trying to make money in other ways. But meanwhile, as I'm a part of this, we'll call it a revolution because there's no other way to describe it. I am going to keep on holding those shares because I know that it's creating immense pain and frustration for all of the other Wall Streeters that are trying to get away with this fraud. And that's why this is important to me and why I keep doing the whole YouTube thing and posting my DD, trying to help people be profitable. I'm not focused on distracting people from AMC, which I've been accused of many times, but I am focused on trying to teach people how to be profitable in other areas of the market while we hold on to this, because everybody's been like, they're laser focused on AMC and what's happening with my shares and am I going to get my shares? When's the squeeze? When moon? Like that over and over and over again. That obsession is wrecking their mindset and basically it's brainwashing them to focus on one ticker and to only trade one ticker. And what they are doing is becoming more and more emotional, frustrated, angry, violent, and it only evolves from there. Like it's like the slowly turning to the dark side, from the Star
Yeah.
Wars.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. That's the big scary thing about this is that a lot of people may be in for disappointment and what's going to happen then with those people, and that's part of that's the unknown. Like you said, it really is about make fighting the system for making it more equitable. I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
What you're doing, I believe in that mission with you.
I appreciate that. And that's really what this has to come down to in order for everybody to be more successful at this and for this movement to succeed in general is we will have to accept the possibility that we will lose something very important to us. That is the common theme of every revolution in history is that when everybody accepted that they have nothing left to lose, that they have nothing left that can be taken from them, and that it is worth sacrificing what they do have left in order to change the status quo, that's when the change actually happens. And hopefully, this doesn't turn into a violent revolution like all of the ones preceding us, but we can actually put enough pain monetarily on the system to affect the change. And this is going to have wide sweeping implications across the entire global economy. And I don't know if you noticed, but China's collapsing
Yeah, I
and
noticed.
and
I noticed.
they're dealing with bank runs. Their entire pyramid scheme of their real estate
They were
market
House of
is
Cards.
coming
I
down.
knew that like 60 years ago, 70 years ago, even 10 years ago. I'd never sold from China. They were House of Cards.
Yeah, it's frankly it's all a house of cards. Our
That's
entire Federal Reserve, our reserve banking system, and our fractional reserve banking system is is all a giant house of cards, and it all perpetuates and relies on the fact that we are constantly cycling our money through the system, and our credit, our debt, and our income is just a revolving door where all the money keeps coming back to the government. And now they've really screwed the
wealthy and the
pooch
wealthy and the wealthy.
and the wealthy. Now they've really screwed the pooch because they've consolidated all of the cash to one class of citizen who cannot use it all. They literally can't spend it fast
Yeah.
enough.
So in other words, you cut off your demand curve. Is what you're
Exactly.
saying.
So you have no supply of cash through natural circulation of the currency. You only have the ability to print more of it in order to give it to the lower class.
Yeah.
And that's the
Absolutely. Which
only
is
way that people are able to still survive right now. It's
yeah.
literally created a death spiral in our currency. The only way that this gets fixed, and nobody's going to like this answer, but you have to take the money from all of the supremely wealthy individuals in the world and you have to do it now. There needs to be a flat
I totally
tax where
agree.
they all give up 5 to
You
10%
you need
of their value.
redistribution.
It does. It needs to
Capitalism
be
always will need that,
redistributed
right?
and it needs to go against government and credit debt. It needs
Yeah.
to cut the debt.
Yeah, why don't we make it go directly to the national debts of the world? Wouldn't that be great?
Here's the thing: the national debt, 60% of it is based on mortgages and revolving credit.
But here, Scrap Queen, here's the thing: you need to keep greasing the lower and lower middle class. Uh, Otherwise, you cut off your demand curve, and you have obviously incongruence within them. In other words, saying anger, that where they won't go. They don't see enough justification in their lives to continue with the system. So that's, and I don't mean to be, and that's why I'm not like, I don't look for necessarily handouts, but when you have capitalism, I love capitalism, but let's be honest about what it does. It does tend to, over time, continue to funnel more and more of the resources to the upper class because they already have the leverage to do so, unless there's some counterbalance. and it's for their own good. In other words, a health is a healthy level, and then it becomes unhealthy if you do too much distribution. But there is a healthy level that has to happen in order to keep everybody, to keep society together. I hope I stated that clearly. Did anybody not understand it?
Yeah, I think you stated it quite clearly. It's the system. In order for capitalism to work, the capital must circulate, and it needs to
Yeah,
circulate in a healthy way where average individuals, even the lower and the working class, need to be able to. They need to receive enough cash to make a living and have a quality standard of living.
that's
This
right. They
country
need to be
and
enjoying it.
every country that has had a capitalist economy is most successful when the lower and the middle class are content because they have easy access to goods. They have
Yeah,
easy access to their necessities and they're able to make enough money to have a comfortable lifestyle.
you said it. They have to be happy. They have to have enough to be essentially happy. They don't need the mansion,
Right,
but they do need to feel that the benefit of life is worth the cost of it.
right. There's a
I'm
popular
the kind of
there's a popular experiment that I think about when I think about the state of our country and our world. And it was an experiment done with lab rats. And the intention of this experiment was to test drug addiction and understand the psychology of drug addiction to determine whether addiction was a learned behavior, um, and what factors went into it. So what they did was they put a rat in a cage. It was just an empty cage, and they had two bowls of water. And one of the waters was spiked with LSD. The other one was just regular water. And that was the experiment. And the rat went to the LSD spiked water every single time. But what they
once it
didn't
knew what it was,
realize
right?
was that
Once it knew what it was.
once it knew what it was, it went back to that every single time. But what they didn't realize in the experiment was that the rat was alone. It had nothing in its cage to keep it busy. It was just a bed, water, food. That's it. It's literally a prisoner
Right,
with nothing else to do. So it
right.
goes back to the drug every single time because it's the most interesting thing for it to do, and it slowly killed it. Of course. Then
Yeah. The question.
another
Go
study
ahead.
later repeated the same experiment, but they did a variation where they did the same experiment and they started it the same way, but then they put that rat in another cage which was much larger with a bunch of other rats. They had jungle gym equipment, the tubes and all that, running wheels,
Like a
and
playground, a
they
rat
had the
playground.
LSD water and the regular water, and
Hmm.
the rat never touched it again. It never touched the stuff. They
Yeah,
actively avoided it as much as possible.
yeah. Showing the mental attitude, right? The
Yeah.
LSD was escape essentially because the rat was depressed by
Yeah,
a
and it was
long.
all about that environmental factor. It was all about
Yeah,
that environmental factor. And I've I drew some parallels between that experiment and the way that we live as a culture right now, where everybody who is, lower and working class, everybody is addicted to something. Everyone's either addicted
yeah,
to
exactly.
it doesn't even have to be
Absolutely.
weed or drugs or
Look at the
alcohol.
OxyContin. The OxyContin epitomizes it, Pete.
Well, even our
That's what
phones,
you're saying.
even television, video games, all of that, all of those things are addictions in their own right.
True,
All of
but
those
they're
things
not
are, and it's not to
necessarily
say that you can't
mutilating.
do those things without becoming an addict, but it's that if that's the only thing that you do, it is a sign that everything else in your life is not of quality.
Yeah,
And the
true.
environment that we have with this fucking country is that is everybody has addiction forced on them between television ads, pornography, video games, and weed and alcohol and other heavy drugs and opiates and
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
Literally, all of this crap is being forced on everybody into like this sedation, and this has
yeah.
been our culture for the last like two generations.
Yeah,
It wasn't
very
like
true.
this. It wasn't
Escapism.
like this in the 90s. It only started after 2000 when things got truly bad. And then we had the global financial crisis and it accelerated from there.
Yeah, it's escapism, and you're
Yeah.
right. Everybody, because when when your real life is too difficult to face, that's when everybody starts escaping until it gets to the point where you're forced to confront reality, right? Which a financial crisis will do. When you can't eat food, you have to face that. You can't watch TV and whittle it away.
Yeah.
So that's when it's so-called the rubber meets the road, right? That's kind of that's and then everybody and then you see a violent reaction because suddenly all these people who had escaped and weren't paying and weren't part of the weren't really a threat suddenly get forced into reality and become a threat because
Yeah.
they don't, like if they have nothing to lose.
And that's part of why I look at the consumer sentiment index and I honestly want to start calling it the
Misery.
I want to start calling it the revolution index because
That too.
consumer confidence is at an all-time low, lower than it was in 2008, which is absolutely shocking.
Scary. That is scary. Yeah, definitely scary.
This is lower than it was in 2008, lower than it was in the 80s. Like this is the historic lowest that consumer confidence has ever been. It's
Yeah.
it's shocking and terrifying to me.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for the reality to hit everybody because eventually once this situation, once we realize the environment that we're living in is so literally covered in garbage that it's not a society worth participating in, and people are going to do one of two things. They'll either one fall into depression or two they will get angry and violent.
Yes.
Those are the only two natural human responses to being in
Yeah.
this situation. Is life is not worth living. Everything sucks. Our quality of life is so substandard. We're literally treated
Oh,
like
without.
stray animals by
Yeah.
our government and by the upper class who have everything and are so out of touch that they think that everything is fine because inflation hasn't touched them, even though they make literally 14. I did the math, 14 and a half times. fucking Chair Dally is such a dumbass. She's so stupid that she can look into a camera and say that she doesn't feel the pain of inflation when she makes 14 times the median income,
Yeah, that was stupid. Her
the
comment.
median
I know. I saw that.
household income. That's ridiculous. That is so upsetting and frustrating to hear somebody that is running our economy say that. That is a
Absolutely.
let them eat cake statement. And it's going to piss people off. People are already pissed off. You see China's about ready to start burning down once all of those
Well,
people
that's what's
raid the
very
banks.
fascinating. I think something may start materializing, and if not, it's creating the undercurrent for a couple of years down the road, But people are beginning to wake up to, the emperor has no clothes kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Listen, I feel bad, TJ. You and I could probably have a discussion. We could probably go off for some beers. I feel really bad. I hope Scrap Queen and
You're right. We
Real
should
Rock
we should
control
we
the
should
card
chat
today.
about
And
some
I
other things.
really
We've
sincerely
been
apologize
monopolizing
if
the
I did that.
conversation. What does everybody
Yeah,
else want to talk about? What else
I'm
do we
being
have going
quiet.
on?
Good morning and to the West Coast, and good afternoon to East Coast. It's the brown noise, otherwise Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Just as a
nice
general.
to hear
Sorry
your
to do all
voice.
the interject here.
Excellent radio voice. I really like that. That was excellent. What can I do
I
for
was
you?
only going to add that I hear in voices that there's clearly a whole ton of smokers on here, and just to go back to your discussion on addiction, it's sort of interesting because I smoked for 20 years and then quit, but I did it sort of on accident. And I read this book by this guy called Alan Carr, who ironically enough died of lung cancer at 75. But uh, he wrote a book called The Easy Way to Quit Smoking. And basically what it did is it dispels all the myths of essentially brainwashing that it's difficult to kick addiction, particularly with smoking. And the book itself is only about 220 pages. And as a pack a day 20-year smoker, it was phenomenally just, I mean, it was life altering just because I quit smoking. But I woke up one morning, it was only 170 pages into the book, and I just never wanted a cigarette again. And that was like 8 years ago.
Really?
So it's sort of an interesting study of how much addiction is also brainwashed into us that it's difficult to stop it when it's not. Basically, he just completely thrashes the the fact that we've looked at this and heard it on television, radio, movies, that it's cool to smoke, it's difficult to smoke. We've heard this message so much that we believe that it's difficult to smoke. And in fact, it's absolutely not, because I've given the book to a bunch of other people and they just read it, and he doesn't ask you to stop quitting. It's not willpower. It's none of this. It's just purely changing your mindset. And then you inevitably just go, oh, that was fucking stupid.
You know what? I think I know where you're going with this, but I want to hear the process. Like, what is the premise of how you put a stop to it?
It's funny. He calls the physical addiction the little monster, and the mental addiction the big monster, whatever. It's been years since I looked at it, but essentially, he goes not only just through factual stuff. It was interesting for me as somebody who's kind of more scientific, or other, like I need facts to back stuff up. And he provides that. He doesn't try and scare you by saying, hey, listen, it's going to cause cancer. It's going to cost you, $50,000 for X amount of time of smoking, because you guys don't care about that. You care about smoking. It's part of your personality or whatever it happens to be. That he goes through these things that speak, because everybody who smokes for kind of a similar reason, but feels that it's unique to them. And he goes through that process of saying, hey, I bet you, go outside and have a cigarette and pretend as though you're not, or maybe you're just smoking a cigarette a day or two or whatever. And that's just as bad, just as dismissive of the natural problem here, which is simply, why the hell do you do it in the first place? He did it, and he, one of the things that got me was when he said, the physical addiction, when you go to sleep at night and you get an 8-hour sleep, for instance, 90% of the nicotine in your body is gone in the morning. So that leaves the big monster, which is just what you perceive about your addiction. And I can't remember all the details, and quite frankly, a lot of it was sort of almost like brainwashing to destroy the previous to offset the previous brainwashing. But he goes through and kind of repeats a similar message throughout the book. And as I say, I never finished it. I did. He subsequently did one on drinking, and I read that, and it completely altered my thought process on drinking. My wife, she did the same thing, and neither of us have drank much. I mean, we've since gone back and we'll occasionally have a beer or wine or whatever, but dramatically affected the drinking. But as I said, 8 years I haven't even touched a cigarette. And I have friends that chain smoke 24/7, and I can stand there and I look at it and I don't feel sorry for them in sort of this elitist way, but just kind of like, oh, it's so easy. It's so easy. And I know you do want to stop.
You're relieved. Yeah. No, you're like, you see it because of a completely different perspective. You're in control as opposed to being out of control. And that's a huge difference when you feel like you're in control of something. So,
yeah, it sounds like it sounds too good to be true. And yet when you finish, you don't even have to finish the book in my case, but when you get into it and you realize, God, so much of this has just been, it's a mindset. It's been told to me a million times over. I kind of view it in, like, I have a daughter and I see the stuff she watches, her mom, and the idea of getting remarried and all this sort of stuff. And it's always this kind of like, it's like a reality TV perspective on it. And again, it's like, it's the expectations. And ultimately it's always a lack of education. I think everything in this country that can go wrong and does go wrong ultimately boils down to education. I grew up in Canada where it was subsidized and it was not expensive. But it always goes back to that ability to critically think, and rather than always just joining the crowd in what's expected or what the television or the latest reality TV tells you, to have that kind of original thought process for yourself.
Yeah.
I'll get tricked by it. I got tricked by it on a first marriage, and kind of just went, okay, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then at some point
You married somebody you didn't feel inclined, you didn't really feel like. Are you saying that you married someone who you didn't in your heart really want to marry at the time? You instinctively knew it?
Tiddy, can you check Atari?
Sorry, Phil, I completely lost you there.
I'm sorry. I said, are you? So I was saying, so you married in your heart. You married someone in your heart. You really knew you didn't want to marry, but you felt pressured into it.
Well, you kind of just live. You kind of you make decisions based on sort of what society keeps telling you should do. I'm since married again. I absolutely adore my wife and love every part of our marriage. But we began in a very different way after I fucked it up the first time. It gave me a good pause to say, well, what is it that works for me? And it's not what I'm being told on
you're 32 years old and you should be married, right? You're 32 years old now, you should be married. So you go out and try to find a partner to say, hey, I'm a good member of society, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
This is rapidly turning into a mental health podcast a little bit. Yeah, I kind of like it. I kind of like it. No, but I appreciate it.
It's kind of healthy though. But it is in a sense it's healthy because the basis of trading, right? Good trading revolves around that too.
Absolutely, and I'll get to. I just wanted to mention because Otto was asking about Atari, and I'll get to I'll get to it here in a second. Go ahead, Brown. Yeah, sorry.
Just real quick, I'll finish out here. The reason I even dropped it was because I know that Logic there's getting married, and it sounds like he's also a smoker, and he's made some suggestions that he wants to quit. So I sent him a couple bucks just in that special whatever it was that you had set up for his wedding. But I almost wanted to add in like, hey, go buy this book because of all the people in here, I think he could really benefit from that. So if anyone else wants to drop that on there, it's always fun to push it because 9 out of 10 people that pick up the book, it works perfect. And
that's awesome.
And you never go back. So
I was a smoker too. I was a smoker while I was a soldier in the Army, and I quit after I met my girlfriend, now wife, and it was more like she's like, I can't be with somebody that smokes, so you have to stop. But like, why are you even bothering? Because it's such a waste of money and time. And you really shouldn't waste your time with that. It's a disgusting habit. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I just stopped. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. And I stopped smoking. And I never picked up a cigarette after that. I'll occasionally have like a cigar or something at like special parties, like not even once a year. It has to be like a big occasion. But
that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that once in a great while. That's not likely to do you any damage. It's like you say, it's the consistency, right? It's the frequency.
Right. Absolutely. But yeah, that mindset is absolutely everything. And you're totally right about the aspect with trading as well. The aspect with trading mindset is, I would say, even more true, just because you're fighting against you are fighting a mental battle every time you go to trade these charts, and having the conviction to stick to your trading thesis is extremely difficult. It is extremely difficult. It's its own type of warfare.
Yep, no question about it. What's also interesting is that, as I say real quick now, that once you learn and stop one behavior, I think you start to look at some of the deeper issues you've had. Like True Demon, it's clear what happened. You're very affected by what happened to your parents. I remember you telling the story about they almost lost their house, which is why they went to the Army. And that, you have a lot of anger. It hit you at a traumatic time. You were a kid.
Yeah, I suppose so.
And sometimes it's deep seated, and sometimes though, when you and that's why you pick up addictions. And sometimes when you stop them, sometimes you're able to be more introspective and say, okay, what's the underlying reason why I went to it, and can I come to grips with it? And then once you find that if you can come to grips with the underlying problem, a lot of other maybe addictions you had will simultaneously will stop them too.
Maybe you're right.
I'm not saying if you did or not. I'm just saying that's what happens sometimes. Like when people are numb, when you stop an addiction, sometimes you think about, well, why did I get into it in the first place? And you start examining that. And if you can come to grips with that underlying issue, that you'll find that you probably have a bunch, like sometimes you have multiple behaviors that are destructive from originating from the same cause.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
Sorry, I minored in psychology. I know I have.
Me neither. Me neither. But
No, I
it's
did. No,
fun.
I have a minor.
Oh, you do. You do have a minor in
yeah,
psychology.
I picked it up. I have I'm a major in economics and in accounting, right? In CPA, I have two majors, and I had a minor.
That's cool.
Like,
that's cool.
I kind of picked that up. I think my career counselor at college said, "Hey, you're one credit short of a minor in psych. You want to take another psych course?" Sure. You know, I didn't go in intended. It just happened that way.
Very cool. I want to get to some of the other DD because we've been talking about this and that for a while now. Otto, you were asking about Aterian, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So MACD line recently crossed 0, and 20 moving average simple is about to cross 50 moving average. So I guess it's a good sign, right?
I would say so. Yeah, I don't have my moving averages on here. Let me get those up. Let's see, I've got my 10, my 20. Let's see if I switch this to a 9 and a 21.
Is it simple or is it weighted, your moving averages?
I believe this is simple. Or no, these are smooth. Sorry, smooth moving averages. Okay. So let's see here. I like this. I do like this. So we got rejected twice. 3 times, actually. 1, 2, 3 times by the 200 period moving average, and then retraced down, consolidated a little while. And now we're back above the 50. This is a good sign. We already had a big confirmation bounce candle. So it's a bit of a late entry, but this could easily touch the 200. And I would set the bottom of this candle, just the 50 period moving average, as the risk-reward ratio. It's not a great risk-reward ratio, but I'm assuming that you're looking for something bigger, like a big break through the 200 moving average and a reversal trend. Am I right?
Well, I already have like a position at 316, so I'm just waiting to
316.
Yeah, 316. Yeah.
Sorry, my wife is cackling at something from the living room. I don't know if everybody else was able to hear that. So 316. Well, you'll definitely hit it at any rate. So
Yeah, I hope so. So I was just on the Atari, I was just wanted to ask some general questions. So if we see MACD line cross 0 and simple average is faster crosses this lower one, it's a good sign, right? That there's a strength in new prices, right?
Oh yes, this is definitely strong. MACD has been moving above, and it hasn't overextended itself yet. Since it moved over the 1 or the 0. Let's see. I'm just as bullish by the fact that it bounced off of the 50 twice now. It's pulled back above the 50 period.
They dropped it by better earning. They dropped it and it bounced off.
And it just came right back. Yeah, that's a strong move. Well, it's definitely a good sign. I'm not sure that I have a price target for this one. Let me rephrase that. I don't have a price target for this one. But let's take a look at some of the other data. Maybe we can get Ortex up here. Let's see, Ortex. I want to see what the short interest on Atarian is. I know that it's pretty high. I've been using a screener, by the way, to pick out better squeeze plays, and Atarian started popping up on my screener a couple of times. It's not first in line, but it has been there for a while. Okay. I wish that Ortex would let you save your screener settings, though. Let me switch my windows. Here we go. Let's get my Ortex up here. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to change my Ortex settings a little bit. Okay. What the hell? Ortex, come on. It's not sorting. Oh, sure, Scrap Queen. Scrap Queen just asked to explain Divergence. He's asked me to stop calling it that. So it's called a mirror signal. Yeah, Todd wants me to stop using that term, so I'll respect his wishes. Let me see if I can pull up a ticker that has done it recently. We might as well check out Atarian and see if it has. Let me see. Looks like it might. Okay. So we don't have a mirror signal on Atarian, but we do have very high delta ratios of short exempts. So the mirror signal, which only exists in ScourgeBot, basically what it is a difference in the rate of change in the short exempts ratio. So you have the short exempt ratio here, which is represented in a percentage of short exempts divided by the short volume, and that gives you a decimal number. You multiply that by 100 and you get the percentage of short exempts to short volume. That's the short exempt ratio. Now, the short exempt ratio, we have a delta. That's the rate of change in short exempt from one day to the next. So from here, you see the short exempt ratio went from 3.3% to 3.69%. That's a rate of change of 108.8%. So the delta is 108. Now, the rate of change of the rate of change, that's the delta of the delta, is this one. That's delta 2 rate here in this column. Now, a mirror is a specific type of signal where the short exempt ratio delta 1 and delta 2 are opposite of each other and a very high number. So an example of this would be like you see this 2,665%. You would see a very close number on the opposite end of the spectrum here. So this happens when there is a very large amount of short exempts and then suddenly a rapid drop in short exempts and then a spike again. That's what tends to cause that. I'll keep trying to find some other examples of it. Maybe there's a bit of it in, maybe there's a few in ScourgeBot spam.
If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Boulay printed a list of plays.
Here's one. This is one. This one is this one's a mirror signal right here. Nexi short exempt stats shows that this is a mirror signal. And that's quite a significant one. The short exempt ratio here was pretty huge too, 20%. That's an interesting ticker. It's a very, very small penny stock. Now I'm kind of interested. Let's finish checking out Aterian. Or did I answer all of your questions, Otto?
No, it's pretty much. I wanted some confirmation that that's fine.
Yeah.
So
I will give you a little bit more here, because the daily moving averages are looking in your favor. The hourly is what I would be trading this on if you're doing day trades. If you're swinging this to make a profit off of your original position at 315, you're pretty close to your starting price. But the trend is now very much in your favor. I think that you could also average down at $3 with a retest of the 50-period moving average. This is a smooth moving average on the 1 hour. But on the daily, I would actually be looking to play this to the 200. A very bullish scenario is if this did manage to get above the 200 and found support, like say that this 200 moving average comes down here. And if you find support on it, then you'll expect continuation. But if it gets rejected by the 200, then just take your profit, get out, and wait for the next dip to finish dipping, and try for the next retest of the 200 moving average. That's how I would be trading this one.
Yeah. That's very. I'm also waiting for it to pick up some volume because it's still trading.
Yeah, the volume is very light for sure. But if you, just trade based on those two premises. If you get that kiss of death on the 200 period moving average where the candle just kisses it and gets rejected, get out. But if it crosses above and then consolidates and bounces off of the 200, then play it for continuation. That's how I would treat this one.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, let's go take a look at Nexi, because now I'm kind of interested. It just so happens that that I'm looking at this. Chandagger was the one who ran this inspect on it. Neximmune. Very interesting. Very interesting. Huh. That's quite a strange pattern on this one. What is the float on this? 14.2 million. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Showing, yeah.
I'm sorry. Let me get my I gotta switch my windows around in Discord and on my OBS. That's my bad. I just realized that also means that I didn't actually show you anything that I was drawing for you, Otto. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I understood. Don't worry.
Okay, cool. Well, Nexi is... This is interesting. So I see higher lows setting up here. STC indicator is green, and the MACD has crossed over the 0 on the 1 hour. On the daily, we've still got a ways to go, but I bet you that this could catch a nice move. I think I might wait for a retest of this trend line, see what happens with earnings. Earnings are on the 15th, probably in the morning, I'm guessing. But that that mirror signal I find very interesting. I need to look for some of these other signals, but yeah, Mr. Boulet's been looking for some of these other ones.
Yeah, Gap was another one that came off his list because I was looking into that one.
Gap, interesting. Is that Gap?
GPS.
Gap Inc. Okay. Oh yeah. Volume's pretty normal. MACD is a little overextended though.
Well, when I was looking at it, it's got a trading history of like between $15 and $32 generally. It's only been below $15 when there was an economic crisis like 9/11, 2008 financial crisis, COVID, and currently, and then one other one, I can't remember what it was, but those are the only times it's traded down in this range.
That's interesting. The move to the upside from the COVID crash was pretty impressive. That would have taken a year, but that's still pretty impressive.
Yep, and they just tipped the high side of where they operated a few years, I think only twice in their history, above that $32 mark. But they had a lot of supply chain issues that resulted in them having items coming late, not at all, wrong items, too much stock when consumer preferences change. So they've been scrambling to fix things. But I think there's a really good possibility they've always recovered up into that above that $15 range.
Yeah, that could make for a good swing for about the first quarter. But I still feel like we're going into an even deeper recession and a bigger economic crisis. So if that's what we're expecting, then this might still have farther down to go. Let me go check and see what it looks like based on the GFC. Global financial crisis. Okay. So going into the global financial crisis, it crashed pretty hard going into November of 08. And it didn't start recovering until much later.
Yeah, and right now, Gap owns Athleta and Banana Republic, which are performing really well, but Old Navy and Gap stores are hurting. Gap is hurting because of the China lockdown that started in March. I guess they make a lot of sales from Gap in China. And Old Navy is hurting because of the supply chain issues, and they also happen to be heavily concentrated. I think almost 50% of every dollar of product they purchased in 2021 was sourced from two countries, 30% from Vietnam and 19% from Indonesia, which really hurt them because they had some COVID lockdowns that were extended that caused almost a 10-week delay in their product, which really hurt them.
Interesting. You know what this reminds me of is the 10-2 yield curve inversions. Every single time, it looks very similar to the 10-2 yield curve, honestly, but it's lagging, which is the funny part. Because the inversions happened like way earlier. Like the inversions happened in 2000 and 2006. So it's like the 10-2 yield curve predicted the moves down in Gap, and then Gap predicts the recovery.
Well, apparently, Old Navy accounts for a lot of what they do, and that's where America, like families, shop. If mom shops there, she shops for the kids, for the husband. So it's a hits all across ages, demographics.
That is interesting. For the short term, let's see. Just looking at the daily chart, it already crossed the 50. It's already got a big move behind it, so I would expect some pullback. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's got 10 candle count of higher lows and a big move to the upside. It doesn't have much more in it. I bet you it gets rejected by this 100 moving average and retests the 50.
Yeah, but earnings are coming up, I believe, the 28th, which is in 2 weeks, and it usually tends to run up and then they'll come down. And they've downgraded earnings throughout the year, but they expect the second half to improve.
Overall, earnings contraction has been hitting companies pretty bad. I saw that the beat to miss ratio was 65%, which is just absolutely terrible. Only 65% of the stocks traded on the SPY are beating earnings, and that's bad. It should be ideally more than like 80%.
Well, they expect to be in the green, but they downgraded it and reduced their earnings per share going forward based on the consumer pullback in that and the changing economy.
Hey, Trey got back to me. He says he's always down to chat. He says tonight he's loaded, but could squeeze this week. Interesting.
What'd I say?
Yeah, I know.
I
I know.
called her.
Trey's always down to hang. He's always
Yeah.
down to hang.
Well, he's fond of you too. I know he is, so you guys have a good rapport. That's what I know. Sorry, I'm gonna shut up now.
Oh, you're good, dude. You're fine. Don't worry about it. I'm kind of hesitant with the gap play, but I see the trend is definitely in its favor. It does look really nice. Yeah, I would expect some pullback here and retest that 50. Come back down to 955 or so. Maybe before earnings or after. But I kind of feel like the move has already happened at this point. Going on for the rest of the year, if the second half is as bullish as expected and it retests this level, then I could see it slowly making a grind upward towards the Christmas season. But I really feel like it needs to retest this. It has to retest this at some point.
Hey guys.
Hey Dave, welcome to the party.
Thanks. How long you been going? I just woke up.
Oh, we've been here for the last couple of hours.
Oh. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Let's catch up on some of the other plays. BNGO. This one's still looking really strong. The consolidation here on this triangle looked really nice.
Yeah, I mean, was there any news on that? Well, there was, right? They came out with some study or something. They developed something.
Well, that was months ago. As far as I know, they haven't announced anything else. But
I saw
maybe
something on Yahoo like a week ago. I looked.
is that
Forgot what it
so?
was.
Maybe I missed that. TradingView
Yeah.
has not been doing well with its newswire updates. Let me
I was
see
wondering
what.
why it started running. I'm like, this is cool, but I couldn't figure out why it was running. You know, was it a squeeze? What was going on?
I don't know. Oh God, I don't want to look at the stock twits link. I'm not going to pay attention to that garbage. I joined stock twits and immediately regretted it.
What's so bad about it? I mean, I don't know good or bad.
Oh,
I
it's
mean, I've
just
seen it.
there's just a lot of really trash opinions on there. People are
Mm.
way too emotional on stock twits. It's basically just a
Yeah.
place for everybody to go scream into the void.
Yeah, bitchy session.
Yeah, more or less. Either they're like super bullish and everything's amazing and you need to buy this stock today and it's gonna squeeze tomorrow and it's I don't have time
Yeah,
for this.
without support, right? Without like any technical analysis or news or anything that would make you
Yeah.
believe.
Occasionally there's those few accounts just like with Twitter, like there's occasionally those few individuals that are really doing their homework, but nah, for the most part it's just a it's just a echo chamber. If you want to find bearish sentiment, you can just search for it. If you want bullish sentiment, you can just search for that. It doesn't really matter.
Rush back test.
Pretty much. The setup for BNGO overall, from what I can see here, is that we're setting up higher lows and we're about to test them here. So, if we get a test of this triangle's bottom, maybe undercut it a little bit and then pull back up, that would be my That would be my expectation, because the market maker just loves to break these patterns and make it look like it's going to rug pull retail right at the last minute. And then they start sending it like crazy. I might have an entry here and a stop loss below. Just waiting for this. I'll have a stop loss below this green candle. Have the entry at the bottom of this candle. And set myself up for a 6-to-1 risk-reward ratio. There's no technical basis for that except that RSI is consolidating very consistently. The bullish move is still going on. The STC indicator has been red for a pretty long while, and MACD keeps wanting to pull up. Right now, MACD is pulling back pretty strong on consolidation. This sideways movement with the MACD coming down is very bullish to me. But I'm gonna look for how the stock behaves in the pre-market session and see what that pullback looks like in the morning, and see if it can fill this this 318 level. And if I get an entry there, see if it pops up past about $5.
Sorry, TD, how do you decide this entry price?
What I'm looking at is the body of these different candles. I'm looking at where these big green candles closed and entered and closed at. That's where I'm setting up that's where I'm expecting them to drive prices to, because these are levels that they have made their purchases at. I'm basing that off of the increase of volume, which is kind of subtle here on the 1-hour chart. If I switch to the 15-minute, it might be a little bit clearer. But like these big candles first thing in the morning, and also this candle where it opened up very low, like it basically teleported down. I treat these as signals for where the market maker is setting up, where market makers and institutions are setting up their buy and sell orders. And I'm basically just trading these. Trading these ranges. Hence my expectation that if this undercuts the triangle, then you could probably get a fill at this level where it'll bounce above. Kind of like the first thing they'll do is just slam it down and then immediately take the price back up into the candle and then shoot in the opposite direction. Liquidity hunting is basically what I'm looking for. I've started to get an eye for it, but you can see the liquidity levels. A lot of them have been crossed off because the price has already crossed these levels, but those liquidity levels are still present. And this is the deepest one, so I'm expecting them to go for just these previously significant liquidity pools. They'll probably have orders waiting to fill down here, and what they'll do is they'll just short it and crush the market, just take away the bid, and then they'll have their orders waiting to fill, and you'll have people chasing to sell. These institutions are very effective at preying on fear, but when you can predict their behavior and see where they're going into where they see opportunities to create fear, you start to see opportunities to get really cheap entries. I guess the specific things that are calling out to me are, let me go back to a yellow. Here we go. I'm looking at these rejection candles, and I'm looking at the body of this green candle. All of these are establishing different levels of liquidity. And here's a big one. big deep wicks on these in these areas. So I'm treating these price levels with more significance because we've recently tested these. Granted, this is an after hours, so this may not be as significant as during the regular trading session, but you'll still see a theme of these higher lows on these wicks. I'm really expecting them to hammer the price down and try to get to the bottom of this triangle. Try to shake out some retailers and then scoop up shares in this area. Hence
What's
why
your
I'm
target
suggesting this.
ultimately? To you? What do you think? What do you think it'll go to? What do you think it'll top at ultimately before it?
I'm not going to speculate on what I think the top is. I'm just going to play a flat risk to reward ratio. But one thing that I did consider doing was getting Lux Algo. I have considered getting Lux Algo to try and help with finding those take profit ranges.
Is that reputable? I saw an advertisement for that. I was looking at that, so that I came across that.
It's pretty good. I've seen it used on several other YouTube channels to great effect. For swing traders, it's a very effective algorithm.
Really?
It's very good at spotting buying and selling areas. It's super good for like trading indexes and the blue chip stocks. I can't think of any other algorithm that I've traded with that's been more effective. It's
I would
expensive
imagine it
though.
works really well. Yeah, it's like $100 a month or something.
Yeah, you can get a lifetime. You can get a lifetime license for about $1,000.
I might consider doing that if that's the case.
I
But
might
you're right.
consider doing that.
Yeah,
I'm
if you're gonna
considering
do
doing
it,
that.
yeah, if you're gonna do it, do the lifetime because it's obviously a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, in the long
monthly.
run, absolutely. You save yourself. You'll. The way I look at it is, if I can make $1,000 back off of that algo just in a week of trading, more than paid for itself.
Yeah. But you're right about the blue chips. It works better because they're more consistent. They're less manipulation.
Oh
so
yeah,
I
absolutely,
would think it would work like almost like a charm on them.
absolutely. Speaking of blue chips, I was actually looking at Walmart. I don't know if anybody else got an entry into this at the last minute, but I had some Walmart that were expiring that are expiring in a couple of weeks. I think they may be expiring on the 19th, actually, next Friday. So a little bit of a risky swing, but I really like this setup. The lower low or the higher lows on Walmart's recent chart in the past 2 weeks has been really nice, and it's still kept up its momentum after the dividend. I really like that. It's been trading this. It's been trading this triangle here, an ascending triangle, very bullish. And if you look back on the daily, Walmart broke its bear flag pattern. It had a bear pennant here, and it broke out of that and established a new structure here, and it bounced off support right here.
Ascending triangle.
Yep, is doing this job, and then broke out, and then it tested the top of that triangle as support, and then started forming a new one. So I might expect a little bit of pullback going into early next week, but then for it to take off before Friday. It's been acting very strangely, but I really like it. I really do. It's a nice setup. I hate Walmart as a company. I think they're possibly one of the most evil retail stores in the world. But if I swing a few options, well, hopefully I'll be forgiven by the universe for making a little bit of profit.
You're forgiven.
Thank you.
Well, look at it this way, right? You might as well make money off their backs. getting back at him, right?
That's how I see it. The earnings is what I'm really, really looking forward to, because the earnings on Walmart last month when they withdrew, they pulled back on their guidance. That's
Yeah.
what really hurt their price was they decided to pull back on their guidance, but they got ahead of everybody else, and now they're probably going to outperform with this next earnings period. And if they've been able to solve their issues with the overabundance of inventory recently, which they might have. I haven't been to a Walmart in a long time, but I've been going to the other major retail chain stores, and I know that they're doing mad sales on everything. They're wiping inventory, and I'm betting that they were able to do at least some liquidation. Walmart's very good at getting rid of inventory.
Yeah. Probably improved for sure. You can almost count on that.
Mm-hmm. And the look
Maybe
of
not
this,
gone, but improved.
the look of this overall pattern is very similar to an abandoned island. It looks like it's going to form an abandoned island. That's when you have this sudden drop off and then consolidation, and then suddenly it goes back up to where it was. And then this is the island.
Where are all these where'd you find all these different types of indicators, patterns, so to speak?
Well, I just looked at a lot of different YouTubers and learning different trading strategies. A lot of Googling. I researched a lot of the big names in stock market history, such as Richard Wyckoff. Richard Wyckoff created the Wyckoff method for detecting accumulation and distribution in stock patterns. Which, interestingly enough, if you go to AMC's weekly chart pattern, you can see a pretty consistent accumulation, and you can see a pretty consistent accumulation pattern. Let me go see if I can switch this over to something else. Let's see. Where's my layouts? Let me switch over to.
Hey, what file format does everybody want me to use? .rtf? You think rich text file will be best for everyone?
RTF works, but if you can put it into Word doc or even like a PDF will definitely work easiest for people to read. All right. Get my charts fixed. Wow, I've really got to clean up my layouts, don't I? The OBV on the weekly is hilarious.
No, just say, can I have it in latex format, please?
Do not speak to me of latex. I live in latex hell at work. That's what we use to automate our reports. Oh man, latex.
Damn, you're truly elite, mate.
I despise and loathe latex. Oh man. All right. So I think I'm going on a tangent. I was talking about Wyckoff for some reason, but I just basically Googled around a lot, Phil, to learn all of these different patterns.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
I
going to go on my
appreciate that.
tangent.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go on my tangents. I've talked about.
Sorry, I didn't mean it to. I thought it was going
You're
to be a
not.
simple
No,
question.
you're good. I'm trying to stop myself. I'm trying to control myself from going off into La La Land.
No, you're okay. I'll make sure of it. If I think this happened, I'll just say, thanks. I'll say thanks. That means you answered the question enough so we don't monopolize. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let's take a look at the indices really quickly. I'll close out looking at the indexes and what the market is doing overall. On the weekly, I really feel like we are about to hit another top on the Nasdaq. We overextended ourselves on the Nasdaq back in November, and we bounced off of the 100 period moving average on the weekly chart, and then we hit our heads on the 50, and then came back down to test the 200. So now the next move that I expect is for us to bump our heads on the 100, and then keep moving down. Honestly, there's a few traders out there that are saying that this is the bottom for the Nasdaq, and I think that's honestly, I struggle to agree with that because I feel like the Nasdaq has a lot more pain ahead of it. We've got plenty of situations that we can draw from past experience where the Nasdaq has been it has broken through the 200 period moving average. And I know that the traders that are looking at the Nasdaq going like, "Oh, it hit its 200 and it's bouncing, like it's going to go up from here." And I look at that and I think, yeah, but every time there was a major financial crisis, it undercut it by more than 50%. Like, for example, when we hit the high in May of 2008, NASDAQ withdrew 50% and way undercut its weekly 200 moving average. So I'm very cautious of the super bull case that NASDAQ has hit its bottom. Like just the .com boom, we had to give up 80% from August of 2000 until we finally actually hit the real bottom in September of 2002. So, yeah, I don't think Nasdaq is going to stop at its 200 period moving average on the weekly. I think it has much farther to go. What I would actually estimate for the Nasdaq on the long term is for it to give up 50% of its gains from April. So I would actually be drawing the bottom here at about 7,300. I'll
Where are
just
we
leave
now?
that here. I'll just leave that there.
Like 9,000 something.
Right now the Nasdaq is at 13,500. Yeah, I think we have a long way to go yet. The inflation monster is not dead, and there's still massive over speculation in the Nasdaq index stocks. You know, the big speculative tech stocks.
You mean like the Apples of the world?
Yeah, I mean, Apple's not really going to go anywhere, I feel. But if Nasdaq did suddenly have a big pullback in its price, guaranteed that would cause a bloodbath in the Nasdaq. The market would hate it. Apple's trying to go and reach its previous top, which I find absolutely ludicrous. I can't believe that Apple's back up here. And it's so overextended. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And on a 9 candle print on the weekly, that's the top to me. I've been wrong every single week when I said Apple has to pull back. I've said it over and over again, and I've somehow been wrong every single time that Apple's just defying gravity and refuses, even though I know nobody can afford a freaking iPhone right now. So I don't know why. I'm betting that this is probably just Warren Buffett just buying more Apple shares. I kind of feel like that's the only reason this is happening is it's a Warren Buffett pump.
Worse than defying gravity, it's defying you, mate. That's a lot more dangerous.
Well,
I
think one thing about
I
Apple
appreciate
is
that, but flattery will get you nowhere, sir.
There's a lot of brand loyalty, but it still should give way to macroeconomics.
Yeah. The macro trend is so awful. That's why I'm looking at this sideways. Like, how in the hell is Apple back up here at its top? It's retesting its all-time high. How is this making any kind of sense?
Doesn't it doesn't even if with brand loyalty because we're obviously in a technically poor economy no matter how you slice it. Maybe a lot of jobs, but GDP being down tells you that there's not as much demand. There's just not as many goods and services being sold.
I really like this paper, Persephone. We'll find a place to share this. This is something that needs to be picked apart. There's a lot of information in here. Yeah, I'll pin this somewhere. We'll post this somewhere else so that everybody can see it. Because right now this is only in the professionals floor. We'll put this somewhere that the entire Discord can see this. Because I'm sure everybody will benefit. Okay. All right. So we were checking out Nasdaq on the weekly. On the daily, we're about to hit our heads on the 200 moving average, which is that's pretty much it for Nasdaq in my opinion. I think it has to retrace after it touches this. The market doesn't have that kind of strength in it, and I know that the numbers came in pretty nice for the inflation, but it's not good enough. Like we're still at record high inflation on the decade, so it's still not under control. It came
Yeah,
a
unless
little
oil
bit
goes
under
down.
expectations. That's not good enough.
Right. Well, it's also because of gas, right? So if gas doesn't continue its downward trend, which is not likely to keep going like that, then you won't see the good results next week, the next
Yeah,
month.
exactly. U.S. oil, like the Brent oil. Oh, let's see. Let me go look for Brent. Let's just go ahead and.
Something miraculous would have to happen with supply. Like if supply suddenly ginned up, then I could see it, because that would do a long way. But until the supply issues are fixed, you still have the fundamental problem of too much demand chasing too few goods.
Definitely. Well, I'll just go pull up the futures on it. Oh, this is no good. What's the Brent ticker? I'm trying to look for the Brent commodities.
Are there any is there anything we could look at to get a better picture on supply chain issues? There must be some kind of someone
Probably
collecting
an index, I would
statistics
think,
on
of
that.
some sort, but
I
I've
just
not
thought
heard of it, Dave. I've not, so I couldn't swear by it.
I just thought with all the big data push these days, I thought someone must be collecting that kind of
The
information.
government does. The government for
Probably,
sure.
they probably are. They probably are. I don't know. I need to see more confirmation from oil because right now it's trading beneath its 200 moving average and it just got rejected by it after it undercut the 200 and then got rejected by it pretty strongly. But the MACD is crossing here, and that would indicate a move to the upside. The STC indicator is green and ascending, so that's also pointing to the upside. But the RSI is being rejected by its moving average and the 50 line, and now it's trading at the RSI is down at what's this 42. So you got the moving average at 48, and you have the actual RSI at 42 after getting rejected by that 50 and the moving average. So maybe oil needs to come and retest this bottom and then break up again. I'm waiting for the pipeline in Russia to get damaged somehow. That's what I'm waiting for. That'll be the thing that sends crude oil just going into the stratosphere.
Haven't most people cut them off already? Or you mean the ones to China?
Yeah, like the pipeline going through Turkey, Asia Minor.
Yeah, I suppose there's still a lot going through there.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. There's quite a bit of oil pumping through Siberia as well. Something's going to happen. Something will happen, and it will drive the price of oil up because this trend won't continue. It just does.
Did Saudi increase their oil now? Have they started producing more since the Biden trip? They were going to put some more online. I don't know how fast it was coming along.
You know what? I don't know. I don't know if we started.
I wonder if
upping the
that's what's
production.
playing into the rejection.
That is a good question. Oh well, yeah, the Saudi oil deal dropped the price a little bit.
Yeah.
When did
I'm
Biden
just wondering
visit?
how
I'm
much.
trying to think.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
The US and UK are both cut off them completely now, haven't they? But I guess this is, yeah.
Well, it turns out that a whole bunch of
Europe
Russian oil is actually making its way into the Turkish and the Saudi markets, the Arabic markets. They're getting a bunch of extra oil from Russia, and then they're turning around and selling it to us. So, like, we're not really cut off. We just have a middleman now who's taking a little bit of extra cash off the top. So I think that if the actual pipeline, for whatever reason, going from Russia to Asia gets cut in the Middle East, that pipeline is what's critical. If that gets cut, that's going to drastically damage the world's supply of oil. All right. So back to the overall indexes. We looked at Nasdaq. You know what I think. At worst or at best case scenario, it'll tap its head on the 200 moving average and get rejected. I would say that people should be considering taking their profits now, but we do have this big gap here between these 2 days where we had a big move to the downside. So if it does make a run next week, I think it could hit the 200, and that'll be enough for Nasdaq to be happy for a while, and it'll start to give back some of its gains. Overall, you've actually got a head and shoulders that's likely to form here. So we'll see how that shakes out. The Q's moving very similarly. I like SQs for a short against Nasdaq. I'll probably wait to see what direction it picks and see if it does tap that 200 moving average before making a move on that one. SPX is already about to kiss that 200 moving average, so that move is probably going to be the last of the SPY run before it starts coming back down. I just want to wait a little while for that perfect entry opportunity before I take a position in SPXU or SPXS. DRV for the real estate market is also starting to look a bit interesting. It's down to $35, and I was so off when I thought that this thing was coming back from $48. This bounce off of the 50. When I saw this thing bounce off of 47, I'm like, okay, here we go. Here's the next ride down, and DRV is going to go shooting up. But nope, XLRE proved me wrong. So that brief relaxation that we had in XLRE, where it was back here actually. It was coming down to 40. And then all of a sudden it just took off and has not stopped. So it's printing I believe this is on an 8 count candle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candles, sorry. It's on its 6 candle, move to the upside, and it's about ready to touch the 200. It might come over just a little bit before it comes back down. But XLRE, I'm watching this 200 moving average to see how it responds to it. And once I see a clear rejection of XLRE at this price level, then I will be adding to my DRV position. And I would expect it to challenge this resistance here, or this support. It'll test this support a little bit longer, maybe undercut a little bit before it finds that support again and then starts making another move to the upside. Take profit on that would be somewhere up in the $52 range. If you want to play it safe, you could go with the 100, but there's some opportunity here for DRV to turn around. I want to see that. I want to see that clear acceptance of support and then a big bounce. In order to kind of help with timing that signal, I'm going to be watching the VIX as well. The VIX has been just moving in this straight line down and hasn't stopped, but it's about to come and touch its lowest point on the year so far. We haven't been below this point since January, the first week of January, when the market was in its most bullish position right before the big collapse. If the VIX keeps moving down here and somehow the SPY keeps on ripping, my level would be a bounce off of 16. But I think it's more realistic to expect a bounce off of 18 for the VIX before it starts taking off. If you plan on playing the volatility index, my ticker for that would be UVIXY. If you're looking for a big pop in a short period of time, just remember that this one has some pretty severe drift. UVIXY, you'd rather trade these as very short-term futures because these lose value quickly. You can get the really nice big pops like these big volatile moves when they happen, but and it kind of makes it kind of lowers the entry price because VIX is pretty expensive to play VIX. But you can catch a move on UVIXY for 5 to 10% and make a pretty tidy profit on that. Let's see. Banking sector is pretty overextended. Bank of America has already printed its 10th candle, and it's well over its 100 moving average on the daily. Overall, the financial market sector has been receiving bad news after bad news after bad news. I don't know how this thing just keeps running. Bank of America has had the worst week of bad news, and its stock has just been running for the stars. I'm going to wait and hold off to see how it responds to next week and the dividends. But I'm thinking that September, October is going to be a bad month for Bank of America. Let's see. What other plays did I have? Oh, Revlon I want to look at with everybody. Revlon is retracing to its 100 period moving average on the daily. If we could get a confirmation of support here where Revlon comes and tests this level and breaks out of its wedge, then I expect us to challenge the 200 moving average one more time and hopefully break out. If we see a breakout this week before Friday on August 19th, then those August 26 calls are going to print. Sens was doing pretty good as well. This one was catching my attention. It's been ripping pretty hard, and earnings were very good. It's now crossed over its 200 moving average, so we need to watch this closely. If it crosses below the 200 moving average, then expect it to retrace and test the 100. So it's going to have to retest the 150 level at least, come back down to this range or so, and then maybe range in this area before making another move to the upside. But the bull case scenario is it never breaks below the 200 and keeps moving. Exela is finally off the delisting risk. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days above $1 as of the 5th of August. And since the 8th of August, we've been consolidating right in this level. It responded poorly to earnings, but bounced and maintained its price the following 2 days. So I'm actually pretty excited. MACD is still below the zero, so we've got some work ahead of us. But since it's trading in this channel, my bull case is for Exela to start making a move towards the top of this channel and either find some new support at this current price level, start showing some consolidation in this range, and hopefully at that point, once it breaks out of this falling channel, we can see some upside and reattack this this price level where we came down from after the reverse split. What else do we got? Obviously, we've covered AMC, GameStop. Still moving pretty strong. It's holding up nicely over its 200 period moving average on the daily. I might expect GameStop to retest it one more time before it makes another move to the upside. So watch that 200 very closely. BBIG is frozen in time.
Yeah.
Biora.
Any thoughts about that? TD, real quick, any thoughts about BBIG and when it's unfrozen, what you think will happen? Just 2 seconds on that.
My initial impression is that they'll probably unhalt within the 10-day time frame established by the Nasdaq, unless the SEC comes forward and suspends trading on the ticker pending that lawsuit. But I honestly think that this is going to be very quick. I'm pretty upset with Mr. Colucci, as one might expect. I imagine plenty of other people are upset with him too, but he is a fraudster. I'm convinced that dude has nobody's interests at heart. I don't know what happened that allowed this man to get into the board for BBIG, but he needs to be forcefully ejected as quickly as possible. He is a cancer to this company.
Yeah. You think it'll bounce, or what do you think will happen to it real quick in 2 seconds? Which way will go?
I can't tell you. I have no idea. It's all going to hinge on the outcome of that hearing. I think I would like to think that after it comes out of that halt, that a news release will come with it to reaffirm and kind of put any fears to rest for the broader investors. But I don't know that will happen. The Vinco team has been dead silent, just so silent. And especially since Colucci's been screwing around with whatever that stunt was. I don't know what that guy was thinking. I'm at the point where I'm now convinced he is a saboteur. He is basically committing corporate sabotage. And that was the entire purpose of his hiring. He's just very stupid the way that he did it. And if he is bullish on the company that he now just self-declares himself to be the CEO of, he is the dumbest bull I have ever seen. The dude is, whether he's a criminal or not, he's fucking stupid. Because at the end of this, no matter what happens, once control of the company is put back in the hands of Lisa King and Ted Farnsworth, and the merger goes through, John Colucci's going to fucking jail. This dude's going to prison because what he just did has opened himself to so many lawsuits. This guy's going to prison once this is all over with, because there's no fundamental justification for how he handled the situation. Even if there was a hostile takeover, he breached so many laws of fiduciary duty, and he's damaged so many investors' holdings that there's no way he gets away with this unscathed. There's going to be a lot of pissed off people coming after him.
I imagine so. because we sure lost value.
Oh my God, tell me about it. I would expect that it'll most likely be a volatile opening once it does come out of its suspension, but I'm not going to speculate which direction it's going to go. I'm just going to hope that it goes up.
Yeah.
Because I'm hoping that it will accompany good news and that the unhalt will be that when it's unhalted, the unhalt will be scheduled and it won't just be like, okay, suddenly BBIG is trading again. Because if it does that, if Nasdaq's just like, okay, BBIG, you can trade it now, a bunch of people are just going to panic sell immediately, like get the fuck out. And that's the worst case scenario for me. If it just suddenly opens up trading and people panic instantly and try to sell out of their positions to just get whatever they can out of it, which is a really dumb idea. It's my personal opinion. What I hope will happen is Nasdaq will say our inquiry has been satisfied. BBIG will be unhalted on such and such a date. That gives Farnsworth and Lisa King time to make a statement, which they absolutely need to make. They cannot let this thing unhalt without making a public statement. They have to answer questions. They have to respond to shareholders.
Well, I'm sure they will. I'm sure she's a smart girl, so she'll be pushing for that.
Well, she has been very silent as an executive, which is part of my frustration. So if she doesn't actually if she continues with her, her mode of silence, if her modus operandi is just to be quiet, and she sticks to that, which hasn't worked ever since she's taken control, as smart as she may or may not be, BBIG's share price speaks for itself. Ever since she took control, it has been coming down. And she needs to change her approach to dealing with investors because BBIG's investor base is the retail shareholder, and I'm just going to say it, we're a bunch of sheep. We scare easy. Okay, so if they don't do something to assuage everybody's fears, it's not going to be a good open.
That's all we could do.
That's all we can really do. That's right. All right. I've got a couple more. I've got a couple more plays to put in front of everybody. For some reason, this one didn't show up here, but I got Curve. Curve is another squeeze play that DM calls brought to our attention. This one's been ripping in after hours, so I think it's relevant to look at it on the extended hours trading session. It broke past $8 and got to a high of 847, which is pretty amazing. This could be quite a runner. This one's been moving very strongly on the daily. It hasn't even been moving that much on the daily chart. Like this move happened very quickly. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 green candle prints. We've got 3 more before we hit 9. I'd expect it to get pushed back by the 200 moving average on the daily. But the volume has been just increasing, and I'm loving it. It's just beautiful. Volume going up. STC indicator is green. MACD crossed and moving up. It's still early in the MACD, so it's not overextended. OBV heading up, up, up. Everything is just going up. And the RSI, while it is overbought, that doesn't really mean much to me because this thing can still keep moving up on lower RSI. What I will be watching for is repeated pullbacks in the RSI as the price is going up. And once I see weakness with the MACD starting to come back down, I'll be waiting for that pullback, and I'll probably look to take some profits then, and maybe wait for that dip and see how the price is looking once that dip happens. One of the things that I'm most bullish on with Curve is that the short interest is so high, and they're a good clothing company actually. Curve is a really nice. They got really nice clothes. Some past girlfriends that I've had have shopped at their stores. But the clothes that they make are for plus size women, and it's they do have some really nice stylish lines of clothes. And I can be honest about the culture of America. As an American, we need clothes that fit. We are big people. we are big. We are big
just say,
individuals.
just say it, TD. I like big butts.
I like big butts. I do.
I cannot lie.
I like big butts, and I cannot lie.
Like Sir Mix-a-Lot, like that song way back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. That's it. So I've got my Ortex up. I'm just gonna read the numbers off to you. But cost to borrow is well, actually here I can just take a quick screenshot and drop that in. All right, so yeah, there it is. So there is a big return of shares coming in. So it looks like the bears are starting to feel the pain a little bit. Utilization came down, but cost to borrow is going up, and the number of shares on loan started to come down a little bit during this run that we've had. Where is the estimated short interest? Here we go. So the estimated short interest has been rising while the on loan has been dropping. So I found that pretty interesting. Failures to deliver had a pretty significant spike on this move to the downside too. So I'm wondering if there's been a little bit of a delivery issue going on. Not on the threshold list yet. Security lending volume is honestly pretty modest. And I know that the days to cover is still pretty high, 3.7 days for the days to cover. So that's still pretty. That's going to be difficult for shorts to cover their positions on this volume. This small volume is pretty. Is actually pretty bullish because it's catching shorts by surprise. So right now, estimated short interest at 27%, 14.6% free float on loan. The estimated value of the shorts is at roughly 18.33 million. And utilization of 77.5%. It's not a super squeeze by any means, but that's some pretty high short interest, and the price has really been attacking shorts pretty harshly. The other thing that I observed is that the average age of these loans places the price of the average short somewhere in the neighborhood of about $5 to $6. If you go back really far, then there may be some shorts that have been in as long as early as $9. So they still are, those shorts that have been in for a very long time would still be in profit. But given what I've seen in the price action, I'm kind of inclined to believe that this might be a little bit of covering by those shorts that were in a long time ago. And now that the price is moving up, it's going to put some serious pressure on the shorts that have only been in for a short time. Let's go head back to TradingView. Got one more that I wanted to go over. What was it? I'm trying to remember. Why can't I remember what I was going to look at?
You're on Biora, I know that when I interrupted you, but I don't know if that's what you were thinking of.
Maybe it was. Yeah, it was Biora. I only got to look at it for a hot second. So the bounce over the 100 period moving average is what I took note of on the daily chart. So if it holds up this support above the 100 average and pulls the 50 to cross it on the daily, that's an outstanding, just absolutely outstanding bullish momentum. I will
Yeah,
expect
there
a
was
little
news
bit
on
of
BR.
what's that?
Did you see that? There was news on BR this week on Yahoo Finance.
Yeah, there was. Yeah,
That study. So I didn't know if you had seen that or not.
I did.
So that would be
The
covenant.
big news was that they had success in one of their trial studies, wasn't it? There was
Yeah.
another study, not the one that this one is pointing
They
to.
were successful. 7 out of 7 of the subjects were, they had a
Excellent.
successful outcome.
Yes.
So that's what moved it.
Yep. Yeah, I'm really excited. What I'm waiting for the really big news is Biora to just suddenly announce like, "Hey, we have a new insurance partner and we're going to market now." And
Yeah.
that would crush the short thesis immediately. Because they
They would
expected
go
this
up by
company to
$50.
not be able to go to market for another 2 years, and they're already crushing all expectations. Biora is a really, really nice outlook for it going into next year. I'm pretty freaking
Yeah, I
excited.
bought some more. I bought some more the other day because of that. So
Yeah,
I'm
currently the
impressed.
short interest is at 11% right now, which is really, really small compared to what it was.
Yeah, I wasn't even considering the shorts. I'm just considering the nature of the company itself. Like I said, if it goes to market, it doesn't matter. If it
Oh,
goes to market,
the company's great if they can
interesting.
survive. They just have to get through this. They just have to get through this hump and get to market. That's
Yeah.
all I'm waiting for. It looks
But they're
so
probably
nice.
likely to get some more financing now that they, as they become successful in their studies, they get.
Yeah. The one thing that I'm hoping is that they can stand on their own 2 feet and become successful in their own right without having to sell their souls to the first pharmaceutical company that comes in with a blank check.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for. Because if Biora is successful on its own, its share price will skyrocket, and this is an investment opportunity for all investors. Absolutely. If investors can get in at these low prices, Biora, I'm positive, can be trading in triple digits in 10 years. This is a fantastic company if they can get their product to market, because they have something. They have something novel. They have all the license, all the patents, and all of the test studies to prove their product works, and it has applications in more than just gastroenterology. They can apply
Yeah.
this and adapt this technology to be used for diabetes patients and diabetic treatment. Can you imagine a smart pill where you could just take an insulin pill and you can
Yeah.
just
It'd be great.
you can receive a regulated insulin dose according to your blood
Yeah.
sugar levels whenever you need it. You just take one before you're about to like go out on an outing or something.
It'd be
That would be
great.
amazing.
Take once a day. You wouldn't have to worry
Yeah,
about it. I
take
take an
once a day.
appointment.
The technology, like this is a good application for Senseonics as well, because Senseonics has that subdermal chip that can read your blood glucose levels. And if you had that, which was like, if you had this cooperation between Biora and Senseonics, this is just pure speculation. This is probably not even been thought of or talked about. But imagine those two companies working together to create a chip which is able to read your blood glucose levels, and you have a foam that reads all of that data. You can have pills that you could just take the number of pills according to your dosage needs for the day.
I'm sure that will come together if they both survive. You can count it at
Yeah,
some point. It doesn't take a rocket scientist for that to figure that one out between the two companies. I'm sure they're aware of each other. Would be my guess.
there's
I just thought
there's
it
plenty
would
of
be great for
opportunity for that.
people. It'd be great for yeah for people like me that have ADHD but have trouble uh like stomach trouble uh, with all the medications for it.
Oh yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
In any case, I'm very bullish on Biora for the long term. This one for me is a retirement hold. I've said it a lot, but this is the company that it's like if I can, this could be my Yahoo, like my .com Yahoo company. You know.
Yeah. Sure, I've been investing slowly but surely. To,
Yeah. Imagine buying Amazon at $1 when it was first getting started. That's how I look at Biora. That's what I see this company being.
yeah, it would be something.
Sure would. That's pretty much all that I have time for. Does anybody have any other questions? Last
moment that they wanted to ask and get out? I know I've been monopolizing the conversation a lot today.
I was just going to ask you real quick about the get together with Trey. If you were going to ask him to set something up, or
I'll set something up with him. I'll chat with him offline.
Thanks. If you guys could do it maybe after like 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and I don't know, that would be appreciated. So I could actually, well, you can record it, right? So
yeah,
either
but I might even be talking to him about doing something live and just like stream together, something like that. That'd be cool. We did it once before.
And if you speak to him, tell him Phil says sorry. If last time I spoke to him on your channel, tell him that I'm behind him, and anything I said was meant to be constructive and not destructive. He probably won't remember it, but if you remember, just say that if you wouldn't mind.
Well, he'll come in here at some point. You can let him know yourself. It'd be better coming from you rather
I'll
than
do
me.
that. Absolutely.
I think live's always good because it shows you're not hiding anything, you know.
Yeah. Anybody else got any other questions? Don't be shy.
Thanks. That's what I'm going to say. Thanks for going over AMC and spending that time, and to everybody else again for being patient.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. It's been good talking with you this week. Hopefully, we'll have a nice, big, roaring start to the week going into Monday. And I'll look forward to seeing you all at the bell.
Have a great week, everybody.
Peace out.
See you later.